Man in viral DC Metro photo says he was terrified as masked white nationalists surrounded him. From the PEP Radio Newsroom, we have this news from Washington, D.C. via The Advocate. On Saturday, Roswell Encina was on his way from Washington, D.C. to meet friends for a 4th of July party in Maryland when the train car changed. A few stops earlier, the Metro had felt like the nation's capital on Independence Day, with families in red, white, and blue, tourists heading toward the National Mall, parents pointing out landmarks to children, the ordinary choreography of a holiday built around a national story Americans are still arguing over. For Encina, the president and CEO of the U.S. Capitol Historical Society, it was kind of a scene that usually affirms the work. Then at either Eastern Market or Potomac Avenue, he saw them. Men in masks, hats, and sunglasses waiting to board. I think I froze a little bit, Encina told The Advocate in an interview. At first, I'm like thinking, oh my, who are these folks? They were members of Patriot Front, the white nationalist group that marched through Washington, D.C. on Saturday as the Capitol marked the 250th anniversary of American independence. Hundreds of masked members moved through the city near the U.S. Capitol and Union Station before boarding metro trains and exiting at New Carrollton, a D.C. suburb in Maryland. Encina was one of the riders caught inside the tableau. In a Getty Images photograph by Finn Gomez that spread wildly online, Encina sits on the train as masked members of the white supremacist group crowd around him. Encina said he did not know at first who the men were. He noticed patches and logos and began piecing it together. He texted friends during the ride so someone would know where he was. I would be lying if I said no, he said when asked whether he was scared. I was terrified, honestly, just because I wasn't sure what the motives were. The men stayed on the train with him for about 25 minutes, he said. At first, he thought only his car and perhaps the next one were filled. When I saw that there were really hundreds of them getting off at New Carrollton, it really did kind of take my breath away, he said. On Instagram on Sunday, Encina wrote that he had found himself on a train with hundreds of white supremacists, all wearing masks. He called the moment unsettling, especially on the 4th of July. I came to this country as an infant and became a U.S. citizen, he wrote. So sitting there on the 4th of July, I couldn't help but think about the promise of America and the work still required to protect it. Encina is a Filipino-American. He is also an out gay man. He leads an institution devoted to the history of the U.S. Capitol, a building whose meaning has always depended on whether the country is willing to make the people mean more people. His father served in the U.S. Navy. His parents, both Filipino, taught him the value of civic engagement, he said, from homeowners association meetings to city council meetings. When Encina turned 18 while living in the Philippines, his father took him to the U.S. Embassy in Manila so he could vote. I still celebrate that every time I go to cast and drop my ballot in the ballot box. The value of voting, he said. It's, I think, the minimum each American could do in engagement. Patriot Front emerged from Vanguard America after the deadly 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. As they usually do, on Saturday, members wore khaki pants, blue shirts, white face coverings, and sunglasses, and carried Confederate flags, Patriot Front flags, and altered American flags while chanting "Reclaim America." D.C. police told Reuters there were no arrests, complaints, or calls for assistance connected to the march. That's great. The Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority, the regional agency that operates Metro Rail and Metrobus in the D.C. area, did not respond to the advocate's request for comment about passenger safety. For Encina, the moment on the metro was frightening because it was both sudden and familiar. America has been here before, he said, even if the uniforms change. Made me realize that we do have to work harder, maybe even extra harder now, he said. History doesn't get erased, it gets documented, it gets preserved, but most importantly, it's shared and taught. He said he thought about the country's long fights over civil rights, women's rights, and LGBTQ plus rights. He thought about the people who had endured far worse public intimidation, like Ruby Bridges or Black Americans sitting at hostile lunch counters. He was careful not to compare himself to them, but he said the history was impossible to miss. You don't know what to do in the moment, he said. The metro, he said, is supposed to be one of the great civic equalizers. Everybody could use it, whether you like them or not, or agree with them, Encina said. There are places in our society that allow us to hopefully be civil and live together, whether it's on the metro, whether it's at a rec center, whether it's at your public library. Encina said he was initially reluctant to post about the image or speak publicly. He thought about another widely shared Reuters photo from the same day of a young Black woman on the metro, surrounded by members of the group. Her name is not known publicly, and Encina said he is glad people are not hounding her. Likewise, he mentioned another image of a Black man surrounded by Patriot Front members on the train. Encina said he decided to speak out because he could. I realized I do have this platform, he said, adding that he hoped it could help people understand what people of color and other marginalized communities experience in moments of public intimidation. It was not the first time Encina had felt targeted on Metro. Several years ago, during a rise in anti-Asian violence during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, he said teenagers threw drinks at him. An older Asian American woman, on a train. He filed a police report then, he said, because the incident needed to be documented. Saturday felt like another moment that needed a witness. The U.S. Capitol Historical Society, founded in 1962 and chartered by Congress in 1978, is a nonpartisan educational nonprofit devoted to preserving and sharing the history of the Capitol, Congress, and the people who work there. Encina said he wants people to see themselves reflected in the Capitol. The building is on a hill, he noted, because it symbolizes Congress, which represents the people. It's up there to remind the American public that it represents all of us, he said. Asked what he would say to the men who surrounded him, Encina instead talked about shared history, responsibility, and the work of self-government. We all have a shared history and a shared story, the good and the bad, he said. We also have to understand that despite our division, we're still all Americans. We have to hold on to that. Then he added the harder part. To move this country for another 250 years, we have to figure things out. And the way to figure things out is to understand it and to participate in it. In his Instagram post, Encina thanked Gomez, the Getty photographer whose presence on the train, he said, was quietly reassuring. In the interview, he said seeing a photographer there gave him some comfort because someone was documenting what was happening. As Lincoln said, we have to summon our better angels, he said, and I'm hoping by speaking out, this is my way of doing that. That's our update for this hour. We're speaking out to keep folks informed. We end with this comment from Aaron Lewis on YouTube from a previous post related to the same story, who shared this. No one racial slur was said. No violent effing outbursts of any kind of verbally. They didn't burn down cities. They didn't flip over police cars. They didn't effing go around effing assaulting people for no reason, destroying local businesses. They didn't even say nothing, that they just marched. And miraculously, nobody died. BLM and Antifa, on the other hand, well, you see where this is going. Our response to Aaron is this. Antifa simply means anti-fascist. During World War II, many of my relatives served in the U.S. Army and fought the fascist regimes which started the war. They were anti-fascism, or Antifa. There is no centralized organization called Antifa. No headquarters, and much to my dismay, no Sunday brunches sponsored by Antifa, because, you know, I could use a mimosa about now. I digress. As for Black Lives Matter, much of what you may have seen in the media was overblown. However, I can't emphasize this part enough. When police take it upon themselves to kill a man, namely George Floyd, by kneeling on his neck for 9 minutes, it reminds many BIPOC people of the Jim Crow era. They have every reason to be angered and fight back against oppression. What the people from Patriot Front accomplished with their march was to intimidate, harass, and frighten people. They didn't even need to speak. Their mere presence, as explained in this video, and the numbers in which they attended, was enough to do just that. Intimidate, harass, and frighten people. The concept of white supremacy is quite simply bigotry, xenophobia, homophobia, and transphobia, not to mention racism, wrapped in the flag of a defeated nation, aka the Confederate flag. Their nations, their actions rather, are divisive and reminiscent of Nazi Germany. Again, my relatives fought in that war, so I wouldn't have to fight in a similar war in the 21st century. So, Aaron, if this bothers you, perhaps you should turn to other media sources for your information. Or you could choose to open your mind and learn about the horrendous past the U.S. has had with the slaughter of over 20 million indigenous people, the cruelty and destructiveness of slavery, and the oppression of Jim Crow. Our country is far from perfect, and the Patriot Front's actions paint a horrendous picture for the rest of the world to scorn. From the PEP Radio Newsroom, I'm David Moore.